Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for joining our webinar today, Demographics, Understanding Your Target Market. I'm Abby Tolaria from Melissa Data, and joining me today is our data quality analyst, Joseph Vertito. Joseph will go over how you can add demographic and lifestyle data to your customer file to improve your marketing efforts using Melissa Data's Personator, the ultimate cloud-based identity verification and data quality solution. But before we get started, I want to encourage everyone to submit questions today. You can type those in at any time during the presentation and towards the end of the webinar. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can, but if we aren't able to get to your question, Joseph will be happy to answer offline. This webinar will be recorded, so if you miss anything or want to forward to someone, you'll be able to do so. All right, we've got lots to cover, so let's get started with Joseph. Joseph?
Thank you so much, Abby. Again, my name is Joseph Vertito, and for those of you who are uh, joining here for the first time, welcome. And those of you who already know me and joining us again, welcome back. It's always nice to see you guys. And today we're actually going to talk about uh, demographics and really trying to figure out and understand how it can affect marketing, basically. And really, for those of you who don't realize it yet, demographics plays a huge role when it comes to being able to market more efficiently to your prospects. And first and foremost, how do we actually define demographics? The demographics quite simply is statistical data about characteristics of people within a population, and it involves information such as people's ages, their gender, their occupation, their income levels, their marital status, their presence of children, and amongst others. And really, quite simply, that's what we define demographics are. It's information about people. Uh, and the purpose of these demographics, they're mainly used for a lot of things. And included with that are, when you take certain types of surveys, for example, people will always it's always important to know the demographics when you're trying to do surveys, and it really allows us to have insights on different kinds of trends. How do certain people of a certain age group answer differently or answer in a certain way compared to people of a different age group and whatnot. How about when we talk about government planning? The government also makes use of demographics. They use it to do projecting of future needs. Are the age demographics starting to are the average age starting to get higher? Are we going to need more nursing homes, or is there another baby boom? Are there people more people getting born? So are we going to need more schools in the future? How about job demands? What are the kind of trends are people taking when it comes to jobs and their occupations? What is going to be on demand? What is not going to be on demand? What is going to be oversaturated? Just some of the things that the government can use demographics for, and of course also for doing medical research. This is pretty standard. When you're doing clinical trials or trying to figure out what kind of diseases affect certain types of demographics. Uh, this is also used in that sense, and even when you're doing other types of research, such as social media trends. Who are the type of what kind of people use the internet more, or what kind of people use Instagram more, things like that. But for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus solely on uh, how demographics affects our marketing. So when we talk about demographics and marketing, the first thing that really gets answered is who are the people that buy our products, and this is essential to being able to market really well. You got to be able to know who the people uh, you cater to, basically. Uh, and not only that, but it also answers the question who are not buying our products. Again, it addresses the gaps in our marketing. Who do we want to market to more? Who are not currently aware of what we try to sell? And again, overall, this being able to get the demographics and using it through marketing allows us to have a better overall understanding of our clientele and the market and how the market works and the different types of trends. So demographics not only allows us to, understand our clientele better, but it also allows us with the ability to send messages, tailored messages to cater to specific groups of people. And what I mean by that is, for example, when we talk about age, you know, if you're working for a financial services, for example, uh, more often than not, it becomes more effective to market to prospects that are over a certain age, maybe around 40, 30. So again, when we're talking about age, this is just a simple example of how you want to be able to target market a certain demographic. So in this case, for financial services, you might want to market to people who are over a certain age. And what about if we're talking about income, for example? Uh, if for example you work for a luxury car dealership, you want to be able to market to the more affluent type audience. So you might want to look at their income and probably target those people who make an income in a certain range. And when we talk about gender, a very, very common demographic. And for example, if you're working for magazine subscriptions, or you're trying to sell a magazine, uh, if your magazine caters mostly to women, then you probably want to send it out to people who are of female gender. Uh, and also included there is occupation, very common demographic used in marketing. For example, you're trying to sell a book, and that book is specific to, for example, the medical field, then you probably want to market this book to people who also are in the same type of occupation in the medical field. And another example, for example, is marital status. If you're a jewelry store and you want to be able to market to people who are already married, then you might want to send out some anniversary ads for people who are uh, already married again, and then people who rent or own. For those of you who work in real estate, being able to figure out who are renters, who are owners, you might want to be able to target people who are non-homeowners who just currently rent and maybe try to sell them some property, things like that. These are all very simple examples, but again, just kind of showing you an idea of the type of demographics that are available and how they can be used in different situations. But ultimately, uh, why we want to be able to take advantage and leverage all of this demographic information is because it adds valuable information to our data, and it really enables us to improve our campaigns and our marketing. And this ultimately reduces and lowers our marketing costs. For example, if you're trying to market to the millennial age group, they're probably more responsive to social media marketing instead of the mass mailing. I know a lot of the younger people out there, they don't really care about the things that they see in the mail, and also really just in general that a large blanket marketing approach is very ineffective now. So instead of just blindly trying to shoot and market to a random set of people through large blanket marketing, it really is it proven to be ineffective. So you want to be able to again lower your marketing costs through demographics, and of course this identifies brand new opportunities. Like again, as I mentioned a while ago, it allows us to fill in the gaps, reach out to new clients, those people who aren't really responsive based on the demographics that we know. Then we want to be able to reach out to those for new opportunities, and it also gives us the ability to do really effective selling points because we know our clients, because we know the type of demographics that we cater to. We can create scenarios uh, that our prospects can better relate to when we show our ads, things like that. And then it also allows us to be able to increase sales overall. And really, last but certainly not the least, it really pays to know who your customers are and what they want, and be able to cater to them. Now, I want to show you guys, how you're going to be able to get all of these demographics. Uh, a lot of people, what they're going to have is they're going to have some form of contact data, whether that's a phone number, that's a name and an address, or maybe an email address even. You got these contacts that can potentially pertain to a certain individual. A lot of people will have a phone number associated with them. Of course, a name and an address is pretty standard. That points to an individual, and of course, an email address also points to an individual. Now, we here at Melissa Data have consolidated a multitude of data sets in order to be able to bring you the best quality data for not just demographics, but being able to associate people and their contact data together. And with that, we actually came up with a product called Personator here at Melissa Data. And this Personator is what allows us to be able to get back all of this data and demographics. And the Personator service is available as a web service API for those of you who are programmers or who have programming capabilities. And then we also got Excel plugins for this Personator product. We're trying to make it as easy as possible through the Excel plugin. We've got SSIS, an SSIS component as well. And we'll see that in just a bit in the demonstration. And then also a Pentaho component is also available. So when we run this data, whether it's a phone number, a name and an address, or an email, and we run that through Personator, we get all of that good data back, including the marital status, income, gender, etc., etc. All of these demographics are included as enrichment information in Personator. All right. So again, what I'd actually want to show you guys is a demonstration for SSIS. Give me 1 second. I see some questions coming up. I just want to make sure that there's no issues here. Okay, I think we're good. For those of you who are trying to raise your hands, we will answer questions after the presentation in a bit here. So, yeah, first we're going to try. I'd like to show you guys a demo in SSIS. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of what SSIS is, SSIS stands for SQL Server Integration Services, and this is a very commonly known tool that is from Microsoft, and it's basically like an ETL tool. So it allows you to extract data from different sources. It allows you to do transformations on it, and it allows you to load it into a destination database of your choice as well. So this is a GUI platform. This is the environment that you work with. And what I've got here is a pre-made project where we gather data from a flat file source. This is a text file. And this is basically our input data. And if we take a look at that, and preview the data, we'll see standard types of data here where I've actually got my full names, my addresses, and my zip codes, my cities and states. And these are, again, what's needed in order for you to be able to get demographic information. You need to be able to identify people. And in this case, we're using names and addresses. So got small data set here of names and addresses, and we're plugging that into the Personator component. And again, those of you who are familiar with the SSIS environment, you will see that Melissa Data has developed a bunch of third-party components for SSIS, and these are all really easy to install. And you just drag and drop them just like any other components, just like any other transformation into the data flow task, and you can use it from there. So we're driving all of that data into the Personator component. And in the component, it's just like all of the other transformations, it's GUI based. So all you've got to do is basically set up the component, and it's really nothing complicated. What you want to do is specify what your inputs are and then specify what you want to get back. So again, specify what the inputs are from the incoming flat file source, and then specify what you want to get back. So in this case, we're in the input tab right now, so we're specifying where our full names are. So I got a full name column, and I'm saying that that contains full names, and of course, my address line is in the address line column, city is in the city column, etc., etc. So these are all my inputs. I've set them up. Um, and then here at the output, basically, you choose the kind of metadata, the kind of enrichment information you want to get back. And since we're talking about demographics, I'm checking all of these demographic information so I can get them all back. And you're noticing here that it also can provide a lot of other information. We're not going to cover that today, but I do cover that in a lot of my other webinars. So if you're interested, you can always visit the resources in our website under the webinars page, and you'll see all of the past information there where I cover a lot of these other types of data and how they work. And whatnot. So we're selecting the demographics, and what that means is that we're going to get that as part of our output. And that's basically really all you need to do. And once you've got that set up, of course, you got to put all of that information somewhere. So we're driving the data back out into a destination of our choice. But in this case, I'd like for us to just run the component and see what happens in the data. So, all right. So data is coming in. It's passing through a personator, and we get our stuff back. And really, all of these guys, we've got our original data over here, and over to the right, we can see how it was able to append all of that, all of the demographic information. So some will have most of the information populated, some will not. uh, but for those that do have the data in them, you'll see that we're able to identify whether they're male or female, uh, their date of birth, uh, the income of their household, are they an owner or renter, uh, how long have they lived in that home, what's their occupation, um, how many children are present, and are they married or not. So all that good information gets returned back to you. And again, based on what we just discussed a while ago, all this information you can leverage to your advantage. Use it to be able to understand your clientele. If you try and run all your data through, get the demographics, find out and do the profiling of the data, study the statistical information. From there, you will see and you will truly get a better understanding of what's going on in the data, what kind of market you cater to, what kind of market you should be catering to more, identifying the gaps and holes in your database, and also again be able to tailor your ads and how you market specific and unique to the market that respond mostly to your products. Uh, so again, that's quite a. This is just a very really short webinar on demographics, and hopefully, when we walk out of here today, we get a new sense of the importance of demographics and how we can make use of it better in our data in when we're trying to market. And we also saw an example of how we've done that in SSIS. But again, as I've mentioned a while ago, SSIS is not the only way you can get all of this information. We've got web service APIs that you can consume. We've got an Excel plugin that you can also make use of, which makes it really easy for non-programmers. You just open up your data in Excel, and from there set it up, install the plugin, and it does everything for you automatically, including, again, of course, getting all of this demographic information back. And again, uh, for those of you who are SQL Server database administrators, SSIS will be really appealing to you guys, as we've seen here. And for those of you who are neither of the three, we also have a Pentaho component, which is Pentaho is an open source tool that's also used for data integration and ETL capabilities. So that's where you can also apply these tools and run it through a batch. So I guess right now we will take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Joseph. Now we're going to move on to the Q&A part, as Joseph said. So if you have any questions, you can type them in now. Um, I'm going to remind you that I'll be sending a link to a recording of today's webinar, and you should expect to receive that via email by the end of the week. Okay, so please type in your questions now. The first question is, you were talking about adding demographic info. What if you have missing contact info, such as you're missing a phone number or email address, but you have the name and address?
Right. So, Personator actually does a multitude of other things, and I kind of briefly touched on this just in the example. But basically, if we go back to the component, and I'd like to show you guys here, the Personator component, it not only appends demographics for you. Personator does a lot of other things. If we go under the actions pane, Personator does check, which is, it validates your addresses, it corrects the addresses. Uh, Phone numbers, emails also included in there. So it does all of the checking of the information, and then also do what we call verify. So it verifies all of that information. Um, what that means is, if you want to find out if a person is associated with an address, if you want to figure out if a person actually lives in that address and actually owns that phone number and maybe owns that email address, that's what verify does for you. The move action, as you can see here, the move action is actually what allows you to figure out if a person has moved. So if a person has moved to a different location, different address, this will allow you to do so. Given a name and an address, will give you the latest address for that person. And of course, last but certainly not the least, you got the append action. And the append action, what that does is it allows you to append missing information. If you have a phone number, given a phone number, we can actually give you the person's name, the person's address, and the person's email address based off of the phone. If you give us an email address, we can give you the person's name, the person's address, and the person's phone number based on the email. And if you've got the person's address and name, we can give you the phone and the email back. So it kind of works three ways. Depending on what kind of input you have in your data, we will append all of that other information that was missing in your contact data through appends. And of course, included in that is all of that output information that we haven't discussed, and are included, like the plus fours, the private mailboxes, parsed out address information, census information, congressional districts, county information, geocoding, latitude, longitude at the rooftop level, etc., etc. So that information, a lot of things that Personator can do. So check that out, included with demographics.
Okay, the next question is, how much does this service cost?
Well, uh, regarding the cost, I don't have actual numbers with me right now. I'm an engineer, so we could give you some quotes on that if you're really interested. Uh, but basically, how we how the cost is driven is basically through the amount of records you pass in or submit. So if if you're processing 5,000 records only, then we charge you for that, or actually we charge you for the amount of information appended. But if you're processing in the millions of records range, we also cater to that, and the cost will scale depending on the amount of records you process. So we cater to both enterprise level and mid-sized and small-sized businesses, depending on the size of your data.
What is,
That's
oh,
also the cost.
oh yeah, that's also the same question. We'll give it just another minute for any other questions coming in. Oh, here, okay. How does Personator collect demographic information?
So uh, I kind of briefly glanced on this a while ago, but Personator makes use of a multitude of different data sources. So we license, well, the company is called Melissa Data, and we house a lot of data here. And uh, Personator really combines and consolidates all of that data together to be able to bring you, the best kind of information about people, about their contacts. Um, so we license data such as, credit data, social security data, loan information, credit information, even things like magazine subscriptions, things like that. We have a lot of data. So um, because of all of these sources, we're able to consolidate this information and get all of that demographics back, and we're able to create a service around it and give you all of the enrichment information through Personator. So yeah.
We'll give it another second to see if any more questions come in. Okay, it looks like no other questions have come through. If you think of anything after the webinar, feel free to email Joseph. His contact information is below the screen. Um, and it looks like that's it for today. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Again, I will send out a recording to today's webinar, and you should expect to receive that via email by the end of the week. Have a great day, and see you next time. Bye.